What is up, you guys? It is your boy, Phoenix Brenton here, and today's video, we are going to be talking about the Week 5 of NFL predictions. Now, before we get into today's video, I just want to RIP everybody who got injured so far this season. I feel very bad for you, and I hope you guys do better, because there has been a lot of injuries as of recently, and I'm very sad to say that. But yeah, and then second of all, number 50, you're doing a great job. You guys might not know what that means, but some people will. So shout out to him. Quay? Anyway. Like and subscribe. We're on the road to getting to 700, and thank you guys for this series doing, I've been doing really well as of recently. But anyways, enough said. Let's get into the video. And starting off, let's start off with the NFC side of things once again. We have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. This game was exciting in the beginning of the season, and now it's not so much. So the Niners are just banged up with injuries, and the Rams are probably one of the best teams in the league right now. I mean, it's self-explanatory. I'm going with the Rams. Now, let's talk about a little bit more of a closer game. We have the New York Giants taking on the New Orleans Saints, and this game I feel like is going to be either a really interesting game. I feel like this potentially could be a high-scoring game. Also, could be potentially a low-scoring game. And this is going to be a very interesting game because I feel like neither of these teams are really that bad. Like, the Giants aren't that bad, and then the Saints aren't also that bad as well. I mean, they just recently beat the Bill. Well, not beat the Bills. They recently played a very close game against the Bills. That's something that I wouldn't say a lot of teams can do in this league right now. Just ingenuine. Like, again, 19-31. That's a lot closer than what everybody, including myself, was thinking. Like, we all thought it was gonna be like a 50-10 or something like that. But I do have the Giants still to win this game. I think a lot of people might not pick the Giants here to win, but I think the Giants are gonna win because I think, again, I feel like they normally beat the Saints, and plus the Giants are kind of on a roll as recently, especially with the win against the LA Chargers. Now we have what, in my opinion, might be the game of the week, outside of maybe one game, which I'll talk about that later. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Both teams are 3-1. I am not kidding. They are both 3-1, and this is going to be a very, when I say very interesting, I mean it's going to be a very interesting game. Tampa just got their first L of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks, who just recently gotten their third win in a row against the Arizona Cardinals. And this is just going to be a very interesting game because I feel like you have the Bucks, who have a very solid offense, but then a average defense, which then you kind of could say almost the same thing with Seattle. It's like they have an average offense, but they have a great defense. So this is going to be a very interesting game, and this will kind of decide whether Seattle are good or not, and will Tampa be lock-on favorites to winning your division. But honestly, I do think I have the Seattle Seahawks to winning this game. I just think with the mini bye week, home field advantage, and also having a fully healthy version of Desmond Witherspoon probably in this game, I think this is just going to make the game more easy for us, the Seahawks, to do better. Then we have the London matchup, which is the NFC versus AFC. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Vikings, they just barely lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, how the game was going in the first half, I thought this team was going to get destroyed, and in the second half, they ended up coming back and just barely lost against Steelers. And then you had the Browns, which they are finally changing their quarterback position. Finally, I think I just heard as of recently that the Browns will be changing their quarterback position, which I do think is a good thing. But with how they're just going across the Atlantic Ocean to go in this game, I just kind of see the Vikings winning this game. Vikings just recently played in Ireland, which is actually very close to the UK. And then you have, obviously, like I said, Cleveland, which they're going across the Atlantic Ocean. So give me the Vikings here. Because I'm very surprised to say the least. The Vikings aren't having home field advantage. It's kind of surprising when you think about it. Anyway, then we have, oh boy. We got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Jets. The Cowboys, they just recently had a shocking tie against the Green Bay Packers. While their offense was doing very well, their defense was not. And it allowed, like I said, 40 points, while the Cowboys' offense got 40 points. Not entirely. You get the point. And then you have the New York Jets, which they played close until the end, but they still fell short to one of the worst teams in the league right now, in the Miami Dolphins. Hi, buddy. So, although I think both of these teams are going to probably not be that great for the rest of the season, one of these teams do end up having to win this game. And I think I'm going to get the Jets to win this game. The Jets, as of recently, have played two very close games against both the Dolphins and the Bucks, and that was even without Justin Fields. While the Cowboys, yeah, you can say that with week 4, and they actually had a way better opponent in the Packers. It's still a very big question mark, to say the least. Then we have what, in my opinion, is probably going to be the game of the week, in my personal opinion. We have the Denver Broncos taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Broncos, they just recently destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals, as literally to nobody's surprise, and they end up getting a huge, massive win. And then they have the Eagles, which they just continue to keep figuring out new ways to win games. So there's that. And personally, I do think this is going to be a very close game, and it's going to really just decide on who has the better offense here, because I feel like these are both best defenses in the league right now with Denver and Philly. But I do have to pick the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. Not only just because of home field advantage, but just simply the factor that they also have the way better offense in this scenario. Then we have another pretty much mediocre game. We have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Miami Dolphins, they just recently got their first win against the Jets, and after that game, they were probably thinking, was it really worth it? And then we have the Carolina Panthers, which, what the heck happened to them? Because they went from looking like a team that might actually be better than we all anticipated them to be, to a team that we all didn't for the wrong reason. And this is just such a weird team right now. And we're still wondering if it's because they had home field advantage against the Falcons. Like, we are still trying to figure out how the heck they beat Atlanta. I'm still wondering how they did that. Especially when Atlanta just beat the Commanders, for crying out loud. So, this is just super confusing. But I do have the Carolina Panthers to end up winning this game. I just think the Panthers, I think maybe they might play better with the home field advantage. And plus, Tyreek Hill now being gone, that's another weapon that you don't have to deal with heading into this game. Then we have the next game, which I don't really have to explain that much. We got the Tennessee Titans versus the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going with the Cardinals. The Tennessee Titans have looked terrible basically every game except for week 1. And Arizona, they although just got an L to the Seattle Seahawks, they are still a very solid caliber team, in my opinion, and they still have a mini bye week to prepare for this game. Then we have another really great game as well. We have the Washington Commanders taking on the LA Chargers. Both teams just recently gotten L's by literally surprise, with the Chargers losing their game to the Giants, which just got their first win of the season, and then you have the Commanders, who just lost to the Falcons. So it's going to be very interesting to see how either of these teams will bounce back. Also, the Chargers are not going to have Joe Alt for this game as well, which is another thing you do have to mention when you're heading into this game. But I am going to pick the Chargers to win this game. I think, again, that was kind of just a fluke game where they end up losing to the Giants. And I think with the Commanders, and especially with how bad their defensive line is really, I think this team should get the win here. And then we have our final NFC versus AFC matchup where we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is another, not a really big one I have to explain that much on. I have the Detroit Lions winning this game. I mean, if Joe Burrow was playing this game, I think this game would be maybe very close, and maybe I might consider the Bengals. But with this game, I think I got to go with the Lions. Again, the Bengals have not looked good in the past couple of weeks. I don't really have to explain that much. Like, again, you gotten destroyed for the past 2 weeks. There's nothing else to explain. Then we have the AFC divisional round rematch in 2 years ago, where we have the Houston Texans taking on the Baltimore Ravens, which both teams have been, I bet, disappointing so far throughout the 2025 season, where Houston just got their first win against the Tennessee Titans, but it wasn't even close at least. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens, who they just lost another game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So this is just a very, very just what the heck team so far. And both fan bases are probably very disappointed, and both are really thinking this is a must-win game for both teams here if they even want a shot to make it to the playoffs. I do have the Baltimore Ravens, though, winning this game. The Ravens, although have the same record as the Texans, they one have home field advantage, and they also have just played better throughout the season. Yeah, their defense hasn't played that great over the past few weeks, which might be a bit of advantage for the Houston Texans because they have not looked good on offense just because of their offensive line. But again, their offense is very good. Then we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Raiders just unfortunately got a loss against the Chicago Bears, while then we have the Indianapolis Colts, who just got their first loss of the season against the Rams. So this is going to be a very, very interesting game, I feel like, because again, the Raiders have actually, I think, looked decent, although their record shows them they're 1-3 right now. And then the Colts, again, they've been also playing them very well over the past few weeks, as to literally everybody's surprise. I do think I have the Colts to win this game here, though. I think the Colts are just probably, if not, could potentially just slaughter the Raiders here, and it's also just because they have a home field advantage. Then, with the Sunday night game, if I'm not mistaken, we have the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots, they just got a complete dominating win against the Carolina Panthers, which looked very good the week before that. And then they have the Bills, which they're probably questioning how was that game that close against the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be, I feel like, a lot closer of a game as I initially thought it was going to be. At first, I thought, it's going to be the Bills easily. I still think the Bills will win this game, but I honestly would say it's not as much as a split up game than I thought it was going to be heading into this game. But yes, I still go with the Bills for a win in this game. Then we have our only Monday night game this time. We have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chiefs, they just got a dominating win against the Baltimore Ravens, and I think a lot of Chiefs fans are like, this is the real Chiefs team, and we're pumped. And then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who also just kind of gotten a recent lucky win against the San Francisco 49ers. I think if it weren't for all the injuries that if San Fran were dealing with, honestly, you could probably say they might have lost that game, but they won it regardless. I do think that the Chiefs are probably going to win this game, though, in my personal opinion. Again, I just think have the better defense and probably the better offense heading into this game. So give me the Chiefs. Then we're going to be ranking teams bye weeks, worst to best. So which team do I think deserved the bye week the most, and which team ranked it the least? Which is starting off with the least, I think I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears here. The reason why I'm going to go with the Bears is because, again, the Bears, they just recently got their win. They're kind of been on a little bit of a hot streak as of recently. So you didn't really want to have a bye week now, and you kind of wanted to continue to play maybe a couple more weeks before your bye week. Then you have the Falcons. It's kind of the same thing with them as well. They just, again, got the win against the Commanders off honestly being shocking, to say the least. And I think they were also kind of wishing that they didn't have a bye week during this week. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. This team kind of can use one because, again, they're going from Ireland to back home, which is a bit of a decent flight. And I think they kind of could use a little bit of a bye week, and especially after that week game where they almost choked the game against Minnesota. Then we have the Green Bay Packers, who I think is number one. This is actually just very, very easy and simple, to say the least, to say that this team will probably get it because, well, it's a simple factor. They tied, and they should have not tied, and they lost the last game before that. I think this is the team that deserved it the most out of any team in the league right now. That's my opinion. But anyways, guys, I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Deuces.